Here's what we're going to be making today. It's a climbing wall for kids. 27 high quality holds on the side of a typical old urban cinder block garage. Costs about $220, $230, including all tools and materials that I had to buy, along with borrowing some others. And didn't actually take very long. After all the planning stages, probably took about a total of maybe 2 hours of work. So I thought I'd just show you some of the tools and supplies I'm using for that, and then show you how I do it. First of all, starting over here on the left, we have a hammer drill, which is really necessary if you're going to, as I am, be putting this climbing wall up on concrete block. A regular rotary drill will not do the trick. Next to that, I have safety glasses because I don't want any bits of cinder block in my eye, and a hammer. Above that, I have an extension cord because I need that in order to get to my garage wall where I'll be mounting this with electricity. Next to that, I have a 4-foot, very basic, low-priced spirit level. Next to that is the fun stuff, which is 27 climbing holds that I bought from Atomic Climbing Holds. That's Atomic with a K, climbingholds.com. And I can't recommend them highly enough. So what I have here is a 24-pack of kids climbing holds. These are bolt-on holds. There's also screw-on holds. I chose bolt-on holds for a couple different reasons. I thought mainly it would work best on my wall. I also think it looks really nice, and I think overall it's going to lead to the least amount of effort to put up. And then next to that, I have the bolts themselves, a big bag with the bolts themselves, and the concrete anchors. This is a hollow set concrete anchor, and basically what I'm going to be doing is drilling a 5/8 inch hole into every place where I'm going to put a hold, and then tapping this in with my hammer, and then I'll be putting the holds up against that and putting the bolts directly into them. I don't know if you could see that all right. Putting the bolts directly in through the hold into the anchor. Now in order to drive that in, I needed to get a special socket. It's called a hex driver socket that attaches to my 3/8 inch driver, and basically just fits in like a giant screwdriver into the end of the bolt, and does a really nice job with that. I also have here in this strangely scribbled piece of paper roughly my design that I'm going to be using, and I'll show you how that lays out on the wall in a couple minutes. But it's basically laying out space for 27 holds that will look kind of randomly spaced but aren't really, on a roughly 4-foot by 8-foot area. Just to give you an idea of the costs here, I'm borrowing the hammer drill, and I would recommend that unless you have a need for yet another fairly expensive tool, you borrow that. If you can't borrow it, rent it from Home Depot. With that, I already had the extension cord, I already had the safety glasses and the hammer, I already had the spirit level, but if you need to buy a long one of those, I bought that for putting up some fence. If you need to buy a long one, it's not that expensive. They're under $10, I think, at Home Depot. The most expensive stuff, of course, are the holds and the anchors. The bolt-on holds run about $90 for a quantity like this. That's a 24-pack, again, plus a sample pack of 3. And the anchors, the concrete anchors, the hollow set concrete anchors specifically, cost upwards of $2.50 a piece, and I haven't found a better place or a better price on those, so it's kind of what I'm stuck with. I should also mention that I have here an important tool, which is a 6-foot step ladder, which I'll be using. We have here the expansive wall that the climbing holds will be attached to. This is roughly 5 foot by 9 foot, which gives me enough room to put a roughly 4 foot by 8 foot expanse of, or a stretch of climbing holds. And if you want a wall like this, all you need to do is buy an old house with an old garage in an old city. As you can see, I've drilled the first couple of holes, and I have marks made for the next several courses. And what I'm going to do now is just take one of these anchors and pound it into one of the holes that I've already made. I actually went ahead and put one of the holes right in, but if you take a look at this, you could see I'm putting the narrow stainless steel end with threads in first, and the notched end is on the outside. And all I'm going to do is just tap that in, see if I could do it left-handed. Just needs to be screwed in till tight. Good morning. Wanted to show you the last few steps before completely finishing this climbing wall. Ran into one small problem, which is that with just 3 of the holds that I had, it turned out that the bolts, which were 1.5-inch bolts, actually turned out to be too short. So if you can see this, the bolt does not actually lock into the anchor the way it needed to. Now, when I built the wall, I discovered that a couple of the anchors weren't connecting with the bolts for some reason. I figured that they were maybe defective anchors, and so I went ahead and put in some new ones. So I actually have a total of 5 anchors for 3 holds here. After that, I finally started using my head and realized that the bolts were just a little bit too short, and so I gave a call to Atomic Climbing, and they dropped 3 longer bolts in the mail right away. I got them a couple days later. So the plan today is just to go ahead, take the socket wrench, and connect the bolts with the anchors that are already in place. So this is the finished product. Climbing wall on the side of a cinder block garage. Pretty straightforward project, not a lot of extra tools needed. Materials came and were all very high quality. The only bump in the road I ran into again was that 3 of the holds were a little bit too deep for the 1.5-inch bolts, and when I called Atomic Climbing, they sent me 3 replacement 2-inch bolts at no charge, and I was able to put those right up using my socket wrench. I've climbed on this, my kids have climbed on this, everybody's having a really nice time. And I think it's definitely scalable if we want to expand this, or if we want to do this someplace else. Now we have the basic know-how to do that. And it's been a great project.